Hello everyone and welcome back to another weekly altered video. Sorry it's late. First upload had a lot of mic issues, so might be time to get a new one. I just use a headset for this at the moment. Sigismar and Wingspan got changed. He no longer creates his 111 recruit on day one. We are going to pay particular attention to how we do on turn one, see how that affects the game. In testing, I haven't played heaps of games with him, maybe like 12 or 15 since the change, and it does seem impactful, but the deck is largely intact. So we decided to experiment a little bit as well, see if we can get a bit more top end into the deck, and we've made a few changes. The first notable one, and the biggest one, Sagitta, Soaring Leviathan. A 6 mana 3/2/3 with Gigantic, costs 4 if one of your expeditions is ascended. So obviously we have a lot of incidental ascension in the list anyway. We've still got our gargoyles, ducklings and ascended troopers. I was fiddling around with the splits on those, ended up just sticking with what we usually play, which is the rare troopers, common ducklings, common gargoyles. But one thing I was thinking about including was swapping the troopers to common and the ducklings to rare. So when played from hand, the duckling you can pay an extra one, give it a boost, ascend the expedition. So that's a little bit more ascension from hand, which could or could not come into play. Again, in the testing, this has been okay, so we stuck with it, but that is an option if you are trying to build or tinker with this deck to try and fit the chunky chicken into your list. Not sure how it's going to go. Well, that's a lie. Because I'm re-recording this video, I've obviously played the games already, and I actually do know how it's going to go. I just don't know if the rare ducklings would be better. Potentially, it's more flexible with your mana. Lets you pay 2 into it as an option, which is good. But we're also running 2 Soar instead. So instead of Hypothermia, we're playing Soar in our 1-drop spell slots. So 2 of those to also ascend an expedition. Also gives a boost, so a little sneaky 2 powers worth functionally out of this one. If you would boost and match, your opponent has to put an extra power into the board, which they might not have. Still need a little bit of extra sleep. Got the 2 accountants, got the 2 Sandman as normal, but because we're lacking the hypothermia, we're running order signets. Reason for that, obviously it's a modal spell, we like that. Completely laces the hunger, which I love, unless they have a way to make it tough. But in the event that they play a hunger, they're potentially discarding their own Parliament of Ashes, so Carrie's Intervention is the only one that really hoses this that does not get hypothermia. But there is a sneaky little trick that I would hope I get to play at some point. Haven't done it in the games yet, obviously only running 2 of Sagitta and Signet, so we could bump both of those up to 3 to see it more often. But because Sagitta is gigantic, what you can do is play out all of your other characters onto the side Sagitta's not on, and then if you order Signet to give everything in the expedition she's not played in, she'll get the boost anyway, because being gigantic she's considered in that expedition. So this is a charge from Timu in those situations. Everything else is standard. We do have a new unique to feature. So Ozma at dusk, if you control a token, draw a card. Heavy in the blue stats can be a little bit rough to play against sometimes, a little bit rough to play for us a lot of the time. And obviously on turn 1, we no longer would be able to draw that card. So this one specifically does get slowed down by the Sigismar change. But yeah, let's go through and see how we do. See you in game 1. It's a replay, I'm sorry. Alright, so this is the re-recording of game 1 of our new Sigismar post-errata games. Pretty anemic hand to start off with. 2 1-drops, which is nice. 2 teamwork trainings and an auto signet at 2, so our opening turn is going to be punished for not having the token on turn 1 if we wanted to play 2 cards. And the auto spy is not a very good 3-drop on turn 1 either. So we try and play it a bit slow, keep the Ascension from the Ugly Duckling in hand because we want to try and play to that Sagitta line if we can. We'll start out early with just an Ortus Trooper, so might not have the token on turn 1, but we can recreate him in the aggregate. Opponent drops a Daring Porter, so we're forced to maintain 1-1 with the Duckling. 2 cards for 1, 1-for-1 trade with Expeditions. And that's pretty standard. Now, at this point in the video, I had spoken about it, so I'm going to repeat it, I guess. Did a quick review of all the Sigismar games that we played on the channel, and we've played 28 so far. Definitely the most featured hero on the channel. Of those 28 on turn 1, we went 1-for-1 on 14 of them. Went 2-for-0 on 6. Went 2-for-1 on 5. So 25 out of 28 games we got an advantage, and the other 3 are ones that we lost. So overwhelmingly we were set up to win those games with an aggressive stance, and we are paying particular attention to how our turn 1s go at the moment and how that impacts how we play the rest of the game. We mana the auto signet there, not really looking to sleep anything this early on. Opponent plays out the Incaster, so we'll tie on that side. Assures us that if they play something else out on the other side, we can still trade for 1. They decide that they want to try and contest there, and we do have the option of either playing out our attorney on either side, slow up, gum up the board, draw an extra card and gain the advantage that way, but we end up just playing the Duckling on the other side and trading 1-for-1. The reasoning behind that is that I think in a protracted game where everyone has available mana in the future turns that we would have enabled, we would have been disadvantageous, so trading 1-for-1 and using the Gift of Self is better than trading 0-for-0 and drawing 1 extra card. Sets us up, gives us more options in the future, and we'll see if we can turn that into an advantage. Obviously these are replays. The first recording that we played had some tech issues with the recording of the voice, so we're redoing it, and I have the spoilers, but you're going to have to wait and see. Get our token. We'll play out the attorney. Still a good choice if they want to contest on that side. We get to draw our card, and if they don't, we can devote all of our resources to contesting on the other one. Create the token. We have the option to discard a card to reserve, but we take that one as a way to try and shore everything up. Now, they are presenting the bug out bag to advance here, but they take the option of dropping a Keylon cylinder instead. And because we're going to have to get rid of it anyway, we use the Ugly Duckling and see what they want to do. They add their boosts. First feature of Della and Bolt's ability on the channel, which has proven to be quite powerful here. It gets them an expedition, but we're still ahead. Taking a 2 for 1 is good here. It's always a good thing. 2 for nothing's better, but we take what we can get. Our opponent gets to play cards too. And we're going to try and leverage that. Ascended Trooper, Order Spy, Aegis Templar in hand, so a 1-drop, a 2-drop and a 3-drop available to us. Get rid of the 2-drop because we have access to 2 of those at our reserve as well. And we start slow by playing out the Templar. That gives us the option of just playing the Templar from reserve and loading that recruit into reserve on the following turn. We'll play him out. They're going to get a extra brass bug token off of their bug out bag. So give it a bit of a pass there. And our opponent's pretty well set up for the future. So Neelam's going to be rough here. We've only got the 1 card in reserve, so we can get rid of it if we so choose. And they're just gonna stock up on their Keylon counters, so they probably won't have to reload that one at any point in the future turns on this game. So it's just going to represent a flat 2 power per turn if they play a creature, which you would assume they can. And we get rid of the duckling here. Now we drew 2 forms, or we drew 1 form of reserve interaction, and then can follow it up with a sabotage as well. So we play out the Jack Frost here, exhaust their Neelam, trying to keep it unavailable, but that ends up being a proper blunder because they have another one from hand, which ends up being a pretty massive blowout. Would have had enough mana here to play out everything had we played the Ordis Attorney first, so we've given them a target for that one. They would have been able to exhaust their own Neelam with the second one from hand, so they still get their Moth token available to buff plus whatever they want to do, but now we just can't do anything with our remaining 2 mana, which ends up being pretty impactful. Alright, let's see how the rest of this turn plays out. Move on with our lives, and we will play out the Attorney and sabotage away the Neelam so they can't follow it up on the following turn anyway. Now if they have any mana, they can probably contest on both sides with their Della and Bolt trigger. Daring Porter, absolute banger here. Untapping the Neelam means that they get another Moth token and they effectively blow us completely out with a 2 for nothing. Could have been avoided if we hadn't held on to our Attorney in a greedy manner. Now we have to contest on both sides. We're getting rid of the card when we wouldn't have had to, and that ends up being the most impactful turn of the game, despite the fact that we had the advantage. So that's on me. Lost this game to a misplay. In hindsight, just playing out the Attorney means that they wouldn't have had a target for the Neelam from reserve to exhaust anyway, so with the information that we had, we're probably just better off playing the Attorney out anyway, and if they have anything like a Rime Frost or something in hand, they're going to be able to absolutely mollywop us into the dirt, but they're going to do that anyway. play this one through. Hooked is enough for us to consider conceding the game, and that's game one. Managed to eke out a small advantage of one expedition and then immediately lose it to, even though it's a valid play, if they didn't have the second Neelam in hand, I think we're okay. If they didn't have anything to exhaust our attorney, and we would have been able to play out, either draw a card or just win. But that's the margins we play on. And that's game one done. 0-1 to the rest of the world. See you in game two. And this is game two for Sigismar and Wingspan. Another new hero for our opposition, Tarun and Benny. Whenever you give a gift to your opponent, in this situation us, they can tap their hero card to get the same gift. Slightly less balanced hand this time. 3 3-drops and a 6-drop, plus a 1 and a 2. So we just decide to keep 1, 2, and our unique 3-drop here. Playing first again, no token. Decide to try and play it a little bit slow. Play out the Orders Trooper to be blocked by a souvenir seller. And we do have the choice. We can either trade 1 for 1 or make them have it with their last mana. You know, odds are they might have something, and a Resentful Robin in this particular spot would be the blowout, losing 0 for 1. But they decide to just play out the Burrowing Noosh and trade 1 for 1. The fact that we've seen this in their hand means they're somewhat slightly less likely to play more 1-drops. You don't want to overload on those ones in case you draw them in the mid-game and you do nothing with your mana. So the Noosh makes us think a little bit less about Resentful Robins, but trading 2 cards for a 1 for 1 trade there each into reserve, not that big an issue. Sagitta and Duckling out on this turn is a little bit rough. We only play 2 copies of the big bird that we want to show off, so we decide to keep that one and hope that we hit another Ascension instead of keeping the Duckling around. And we get to see what they want to do first anyway. So we start off, play out the Orders Trooper. If nothing else is played, we're taking a 2 for 1 here, but obviously they've got some form of option. And they've tried to commit to a 1 for 1. However, with our Orders Accountant stats up here, we can actually knock them down and put as little on the board as possible for them on the following turn as well. So spending the Accountant's token here on the Noosh actually means we take a 2 for nothing, which is very favourable, because if we'd had to sleep the Eru and keep them around for next turn, perhaps we wouldn't have done that. But that's a pretty interesting spot. So we could potentially have slept our own Orders Trooper token there and kept something around ourselves instead, and still advanced off the top of my head. No, we wouldn't have been able to do that. That's silly. Let's not do that. And we put a attorney into reserve. So we're ahead, we want to press our advantage. We've got the Ascension here, but we can't use it on this turn because it is a 6 mana play with the Trooper and Sagitta. And we're going to chuck the Alchemist into play here. just going to try and contest, force them to spend some resources on the other side. They can use all of their mana out of reserve here. And we've got the choice to put something into reserve to get an extra token. So because they're able to block the 2/2/2 that we would have on the field with either of their cards and contest on the other side, we decide not to do that. See what they want to do. They play out the Souvenir Seller. Give it a +1, let us resupply, take that resupply for themselves. And this is pretty good because now we've got a way to add to the board but still keep our plan for next turn in hand with the Trooper and Sagitta. And we're incentivized to play out the Ascended Trooper from reserve, because if we played anything else out from hand here, we would have had to send something to the bin at the end of the day. Not too stressed about that. Still force them to play something out to take a 1-for-1, which is obviously favourable when we're so far ahead. And we've got something to do on the following turn as well. So, offensively, the gargoyle stats are good for our expedition on the companion side, but because they're looking at a blue expedition on the other side, it does nothing to block them. So we could potentially, both advance on that side, see what happens on the other as well. And defensively, gargoyle's pretty good. We still get the maximum 3 stats out of its brown on our side. However, we're going to have to make that decision based on what it is that they want to play. Get rid of the license withdrawal. Not really expecting them to play a lot of boosted characters like you would a Tager. They drop a helpful Pelican. So we've done a little bit of maths here to warrant playing out the gargoyle. So obviously our follow-up is going to be dropping that Sagitta. We could also play the Alchemist and the Trooper out as well. But based on what it is that they're showing in the reserve with the Eru, if they want to try and contest against us on the gargoyle side, Sagitta can actually block that and we take a double advance. So best bet for our opponent might be to double up here, add the 6, try and trade. They do block us off on that side, so we take our Ascension, but they do play out against the gargoyle anyway. So we're already advancing on that side, but unfortunately for our opponent we do have a little bit of sneaky techers in there, and we take another 2 for nothing where our opponent could have gone 1-for-1. So that's likely the play that impacted the game as a result. We go through, we could have, if we'd wanted to, use the Alchemist's support ability, but in the end it doesn't matter. Our opponent concedes and we move on 1-1. That is a quick review of game 2 for you. See you in the next one. And we're back for game 3 of our match replays from last week, because I didn't realise that I was going to destroy the ears of anyone that listened to the original recording. Alright. Hands full of 3 drops and 2 drops, 3 of each. Got the sneaky 1 drop with the Templar. One of our uniques has shown up as well, but let's go through the hand. Order Spy is not going to be good because Sierra of all Axiom heroes is likely to not have things in reserve. Her ability doesn't interact with it at all, and in fact it favours landmarks, which notably do not go to reserve at the end of the day. So we could be seeing a lot of things hitting the board, not going there. So we usually get rid of the spy in this matchup. Accountant and attorney both cost the same from hand for the same amount of stats, but potentially drawing a card at some point will be good for us. Templar's our only one drop, and then we just have to choose between our shiny blue unique and our slightly less shiny but also blue removal spell. So decks that make a lot of tokens always have a target for teamwork training, so it's actually quite good to have in these matchups. Obviously never going to see this card again if we get rid of it, but we actually decide to keep the teamwork training, see if we can surprise them a little bit. So we'll use the only one mana player we have to stay flexible. Can play the attorney or the teamwork training out afterwards, and we'll just bounce the tokens so that we trade 1 for 1 here. Pretty big deal. Bug out bag will trigger for Sierra on the turn that it's played from reserve, even though it only costs 2 because it's playing permanents with hand cost 3 or more. So keeping that on the board for a turn might muck up the way they mapped out their turn 2. So we'll see if we can muck with them like that. Might be good for us. Who knows? I know. This is a replay, I guess. I'm sorry. Sagitta and license withdrawal, not what we wanted to see here. Sagitta obviously not playable. License withdrawal going to be good later, but sort of limits our options in terms of everything else we can do. Our opponent plays out a Foundry Armourer, doubles it up on one side, because they know if they had split them that our Templar would have just traded 1 for 1, but it does that anyway. Pretty straightforward turn. We bank our little token for next turn, so we're a little bit stronger than normal here. We're trying to hold on to this specifically for brass bug hives. The only time that Sierra really boosts things is their robots through brass bug hive anyway, so we're going to have to take a little bit of a disadvantage here. Oh, I remember this turn. I think this is pretty interesting actually. So we're playing first, we've got the Audis Attorney. They drop a bug out bag. Obviously get their little bug guy resupply off of the reserve ability, and as we know but they don't, we've got nothing to follow up in hand, but we've played an Audis Attorney out on both sides. So this puts them in the situation where no matter what they do, if they want to advance 1 for 1, we're going to accrue an extra card, and if they play out the Foundry Armourer in such a way that they want to split, they still can't stop us from advancing anyway. So we've split the difference there, not really overloaded. So we could have still traded 1 for 1 with both attorneys on one side, but this way we get the same result and we draw a card as well. Obviously if they had overloaded the side and we'd had both attorneys out on one, we'd have drawn 2 cards and still gone 1 for 1, but that was never going to happen. I don't think our opponent would ever allow that. So we drew a Saw, the Trooper and the Accountant. We're going to get rid of the Accountant here because given the turn that we can set up, we can go Attorney, Attorney, Saw, Trooper, play 4 cards out, ascend, give things boosts, and just generally try to take over the game here. But notably we've also both hit 6 mana, which is the time that Brassbug Hive is live. They're playing first. Spoiler alert, they drop it. Make their little bug. And then we have a 3 mana play to take a 1/1 here as well. So we get rid of their Brassbug Hive. Odds are they're playing 3 of these. We're only running 2 of the license withdrawals, so we've only got 1 more answer to that card in our deck, and they are therefore a little bit more likely to see a second one as a follow-up. So we're going to have to try and find an answer to that at some point as well. Running 1 mana, use the Saw, boost the Attorney, have to make the choice between drawing a card going down an expedition or just ascending and trading 1/1, which we're happy to do. Love that for us. No landmarks means the 3 little pigs isn't getting its boost yet. Now, Order Signet might be good here. Gargoyles as well. Got rid of the Order Trooper because if we have access to everything that we can play, we can use all 7 mana here and might be able to surprise somebody with the one of the stats of the signets. So that's what we're trying to play towards. Avoid the sabotage by playing out our Attorney, sort of incentivize them to play on the other side, and then we start trying to play catch up by soaring and ascending the recruit token. If they want to use a removal spell on a recruit, that's fine, I don't mind. So they drop an Ogun, use up all of their mana. Would have been a lot more mana, a lot more power if they'd still had the Hive on the field. So we're happy that that little fella is gone, and then we've just got to do some maths here. So we can put something to sleep. Either the pigs or the Brassbug reduces them down to 5/4/4 in stats, and if we played everything else out in our hand, we could obviously sleep one of their things, but we would only get to 4 mana or 4 power in green against their 5. So after a bit of a deliberation, we just pass, let it all go, and hope that we can stay on top of our opponent eventually. Still got a couple turns to do it, but we've basically traded 1/1 here all up. Now, this new hand with the 2 drawn cards, also 7 mana, so we're going to skip and play from behind there because we know we can play everything out already. Brassbug Dropship gives them a token. They drop a Boom, obviously more for the sacrifice of the dropship than anything of value that we played. Thank God we didn't just drop a Sagitta Raw right there. But then they've only got 2 additional mana to play through as well. So we're going to try and ascend here. And then it's math time again. So we can bounce 3 power off their board, give 1 power to our Gargoyle, and that is the chosen play here. Obviously getting rid of the Ogun keeps it away for the rest of the game as well. I don't think they're really going to be playing the rare copy of the Axiom card that got suspended, and then we can just surprise them as well. So given a boost, let's just trade 1/1 here. We've got access to the Signet next turn as well. 4 mana makes that a bit hard to play, but thankfully our expeditions on the hero side actually line up well for the Gargoyle, so not ultra stressed about that one at the moment. two sneaky 4-mana plays. We can either play the Signet or Scout the Templar, play the Templar. So Scout plus play Templar, and Signet uses our available mana, but it represents putting less power onto the board than the Gargoyle would. So Brassbug Hub, obviously it makes a token, not really the play my opponent would have wanted to make if they were allowed to pick all the cards they got to choose out of their deck. So we play a little bit slow, see what they want to accomplish. Axiom Salvager also is an after you effect, so we just bite the bullet, play the Templar, advance on both sides. They have a Foundry Mechanic, which, yeah, their hand ended up a little bit anemic at the end there. Not a lot of stats to put onto the board per card. So we end up just trading a cheeky little 1 for 0 right at the end. Unlucky from our opponent. Obviously that hand, that, you know, based on what they drew, could have gone very different, but successful heist for us. And I'll take it. And there you go. 3 games redone with Sigismar. Still going to re-record the debrief after the fact, which is going to be a weird experience. But if you were counting along with me, we went 1 for 1 on turn 1 of every game there. So previously we were 50-50 to do that, and we were 100% on it today. Obviously 3 games is not a significant sample size, but definitely pulled our head in a little bit. Still went 2 for 1. Deck's still good. Obviously it doesn't play any different after the first day. It just means that you have to think about things a little bit differently in the early game and maybe not as far ahead as you used to be. But yeah, there you go. Alright, see you in the debrief. And we're done. 3 games with Sigismar and Wingspan, a 2-1 record, lost to Della and Bolt. Won a couple of other games, notably went 1-1 on day 1 of each match, which is the expected result, but not necessarily the norm. So I think moving forward there are going to be a lot more instances where we either go 1 for 1 or we lose more expeditions than we used to. Out of 28 games that we've played on the channel, 31 now, we've only gone behind after day 1 3 times. Feel free to fact check me on that. I could do with the views, but I think 1 for 1 is going to be the expected result. Obviously that's going to impact how we play out the game. I think the sleep effects to provide a little bit of a gotcha in the mid to late game is going to be less impactful, because it's going to be played as more of a catch-up mechanic. You're not necessarily going to be behind, but you're going to be playing them in a situation where you want to either gain incremental advantage rather than a massive blowout. But the deck overall still works. Did win a game with Sagitta in an Ascended Expedition. Our opponent slightly misplayed in that one, as we discussed in game 2. But, I mean, how are they to know that we were going to play Kentucky Fried Chicken in the list? Yeah, deck still works, deck's still alive. Rumours of Sigismar's death have been greatly exaggerated. Not that anyone's really saying the hero was dead. I think of all 3 changes that were made to the strong decks in the format, Bravos, Axiom and Ortis, this was the least impactful. Because the Axiom changes impacted the mid to late game, and the Bravos lists were sort of hamstrung when it came to generating early advantage that progressed throughout the rest of the game as well. This really only hits turn 1, and the expeditions that you can win in those situations. Um, Whereas the other changes are a lot more impactful. So still doing tested on those ones as well. They'll come through. Going to take a bit of a break from standard here. Hopefully in the next video, do have something planned that's a little bit more fun, a little bit less, you know, of our normal fare. So look out for that one. But yeah, nice and a quick video today. Obviously playing off of the replays, we get to go through it a little bit quicker because there's no decision time for our opponents to think about and fill out with me babbling mindlessly. And all of the decisions have been made for us previously. So hope you enjoyed it. Apologies that it's late. See you in the next one. And as usual, love your work.